Alright, so before we start, I am well aware that Connor the Waffle has already done his own version of the Aqua Team rankings. It's a pretty great video, and I also left a comment on it just to be sure. But that also kind of brings into question on if I should continue these. I was thinking about shutting down production on the Season 4 video, but now that I think about it, I am 3 seasons in, and stopping would just be pointless at this point, so I might as well keep going. Season 4, everybody. Okay, don't get me wrong, the first 3 seasons had an amazing blend of genuinely funny non-sequiturs and memorable one-liners. But this season already leapfrogged over the others because it includes a Videodrome reference in the first 42 seconds of the episode. Way to play into my inner pretentious film buff of me, series.
I am perfectly aware of the difference between the TV and the flesh world we live in, like from Videodrome, right? You seen it?
Damn, what a way to start. Shake becomes roommates with the legendary Dirtfoot, and is presumed by everyone that he's his lover after the rumors going around that the Dirtfoot is, well, take it away, Homer.
Gay.
I'll give it this. It's certainly an interesting note to start on. Not just that, but it's also really bizarre. There are hints throughout the episode where it sort of leans towards a it's okay to be gay type message, but then it completely moves away from it for the sake of a joke, and I don't know, it just left me confused. I know that this is a show that doesn't have a conscience, I mean, at all, but you can't just hint at a message of queer acceptance, throw it in my face, and expect me to just laugh. It's like watching most of Good Omens and then halfway through it turns into Oy vey, my son is gay. A real movie made by humans.
That's not a dog.
I'm straight! Look at me!
It's weird, but it's not weird to the point where you find that your jaw has not just dropped, but it had completely dislocated itself from your head, said, "Fuck this!" and left your house completely. It's funny, but it feels more like a season's halfway point than a proper starter. Yes, hi, I'm Mr. Cynical, ready to ruin people's fun. Still though, it's a pretty good start to the season, and I just love how uncharacteristically meatwad it. It's very out of character and in character for him at the same time. I love it, it's great. Also, pointless Matrix reference. Little late, guys.
Doors are actually open all night and party every day.
Shake gets sponsored by this cheap phone service called Boost Mobile and tries to plug it as much as possible to fulfill a massive contract. I was really excited to come back to this one because this was one of the first episodes of the show I ended up loving from beginning to end, and upon looking back, I like it. This is one of the first examples of native advertising in a television show, around the same time as something like the Snapple plug in 30 Rock, and something that was only hinted at as satire several years before with The Truman Show. Oh, how times change. What makes the whole ordeal of Shake not knowing how advertising works and the ending where he gets shanked to death by several Boost Mobile phones even funnier is that Boost Mobile themselves didn't even pay Matt and Dave for advertising. I'm not entirely sure if they got sued for it or if this technically falls under parody law because of how absurd and satirical their way of advertising is, but whatever came out of it, I still remember it, even down to the bottle of Axe body spray showing up, saying that he's in the credits. And he shows up in the credits. They even draw a little extra tube for him to be in. Look, some aspects of the show may be carefree and lazy, but I like to point out dedication when I see it. This episode's fantastic. Going above Dirtfoot. In what might be the longest episode of the show so far, Shake shows off a bunch of deleted scenes that weren't good enough for the show, when in reality, this was Matt and Dave's way of showing us the progress they made with the Aqua Team movie, which is pretty awesome on their part. Cool movie film for theaters was a big deal at the time for Adult Swim. Not just that it was the first show of theirs to get a film, not just that this was Adult Swim's first film in general, but it was a chance for them to go all out with the marketing in their own unique Adult Swim type way. Even teasing that the movie would be shown early on April Fool's Day when you remember, oh yeah, it's April Fool's Day. The episode itself outside the film clips, however, is good. I like the whole bit of Carl showing up on set to complain about the broom that stuck up his butt that Shake forgot to pull out.
You still got that broom up your butt from the film?
Yeah, actually I do. You can't see it through the sweatpants there.
Huh?
Yeah, that's broom.
And Meatwad is there,
Very solid. Like my stew. You've moved me.
well, being Meatwad. That whole bit of him wanting to show his own film is charming onto itself. I don't know what to tell you, man. Deleted Scenes is going above Boost Mobile, in part of it being attached to one of the most unique marketing campaigns for a movie based on a cartoon. That's what made the whole thing really special in my eyes. Pretty sad that they never showed Meatwad's film before Cola Movie Films started. That would have been a very nice treat for the fans if they did.
How you like me now?
Lil Dicky. Ooh.
Finally, an episode that speaks to my kind. Dicks. The voice actor for Frylock, Carrie Means, once recommended the Dickesode at a panel as a sort of jumping on point for the people who haven't seen Aqua Teen.
Well, I recommend you start with Dickesode.
A fire is the fan.
That is the very first episode you should watch. And yes, it is what it sounds like.
Can't say he was wrong. This episode, in a sense, is a perfect summary of what the series' sense of humor is like. But if I had to be a contrarian about it being a perfect summary, I'll say this. The episode's dark.
Ooh, look, you're wasting your time because no one won that.
Oh, well, that's not what he said.
Who won it, little man?
Because someone's dick is coming with me tonight.
I mean, darkly comedic, sure, but the whole episode is about these racist caricatures hunting Carl down just to rip his dick off, so that it would be used for a rocket so that the owner of a fast food joint will return to his home planet. Okay, the latter part of that plot is pretty funny. But outside of that, it's pretty much the quintessential Aqua Teen episode. It has the memorable one-liners, over-the-top plot, solid comedic timing, and a wild dedication to whatever plot they're saddled with for the week.
Dick, 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 dick. You don't think they're dicking around over there?
Seriously, from my personal count including variations, the word dick is said over 53 times. And that isn't including the credits where everyone's first name is replaced with Dick, except for Donald Cock over there. How far did they go with this? I'm using the censored version of this episode because I don't fancy getting age-gated today. Also because later on when the team pays Mr. Wongberger a visit...
That's a lot of nuts!
Yeah, no, I don't want to talk about this episode anymore. Moving on.
You know what? I want a dog.
Frylock and Nate decide to make a dog with a bit of software that they randomly found somewhere and end up making a dog that's a little attracted to Carl. Heavy quotes on a little. This thing is hornier than Master Roshi during sex education, manipulating Carl into letting his guard down so that he could advance towards him.
Come on, Carl, he hasn't even been here one day. How could he possibly learn the English language?
See, all I know is ball and good and rape.
The punchline towards the oddities behind Handbanana was what really sealed the deal to make this the one episode of the entire show that cemented itself in diehard fans' heart, and is even the highest rated episode on IMDb. Though if I had to bring one episode with me on a deserted part of the US's finest beaches with a copy of Weezer's White Album, I'd still go with the Dickesode every single time because I'm not the biggest fan of the threatening thing acting cute trope in cartoons. Not to mention that after Irreversible, I can never look at these scenes with Carl and Handbanana the same way as I did a few months ago.
Basting that turkey today?
Huh? What's that?
I think it's time to take a temperature. See if the meat's just right.
Still though, it's a pretty solid second placer for the entire season. It's beyond hilarious and has a few pretty good messages behind it. Love your family, care for your dogs, don't do rape, and never order a God playing machine that's banned in over 80 countries. For the love of God. So how should I know that you won't do that to me, Lucy? Actually, don't answer that. Frylock falls sick, and the gang try to cheer him up the only way they know how, and that is to party. With Andrew WK, because he's the only guy I know who loves to... It's then revealed that Frylock had been diagnosed with cancer and only has a few hours to live. Oh dear. Yeah, quite the tonal shift from the last couple of episodes, and from what I remember, this is the first time the show wanted to take itself seriously. It's dark, but it's still funny in a sort of way, especially since the cancer just randomly disappears all of a sudden, but it's still an unexpected turn, and that moment of Shake, Meatwad, and Carl worrying that Frylock's not gonna make it has always kinda stuck with me. The group always had this family dynamic about them, so one of them getting melanoma and only having a couple of hours to live was surprisingly shocking for something of this series' standards. The thing is, finding something that's just as shocking today as it was back when it first came out is a lot harder to come by. Which is something I could also say about films like Sound of Freedom and Vortex, two films that are really difficult to watch and only came out just a couple of years apart from each other. That's probably the reason why I never liked Eminem's Houdini or Tom MacDonald's Facts. They're trying so desperately to shock in a world where that's pretty much commonplace now, to the point where all of their efforts to provoke us make them come off as has-beens. Marshall never really means any of the things he says here, and he was once one of the most dangerous men in America for a while. And it makes him come off like he's trying to win over the attack helicopter crowd rather than actually coming off as threatening again. And Tom MacDonald, bless his soul, he is trying so hard to piss us off, he really is. But all that effort is kind of lost when there is a rap verse by Ben Shapiro.
Download this, let's get a Billboard #1.
Oh, you fucking pick me, bitch!
Sorry, I had to. Anyways, you have to be a really talented writer in order to make dark humor work in a show like this, and I'm not saying it entirely works here, but it's done to such an absurd level that it does loop around to working eventually, going above Boost Mobile.
You're not like, wiping cancer all over my couch, right?
As this was 2006, it was only inevitable that we got a potential global warming episode, with Shake buying a grill that causes a tidal wave to flood all of New Jersey. This episode is fine, I suppose. As imaginatively surreal it gets near the end, the closest I could compare this episode's pacing is to regular show, which I guess, since it was mostly worked on by the same people, but I can't help but to feel that it gets a little too heavy-handed near the end, and the fact that it all turned out to be in Shake's head didn't really help either. Although I do really like his speech at the end telling everybody to eat their boogers. Now. If there is one thing that I absolutely hate in any TV show, it's the clip show episode. The kind of episode where the writers just straight up give up with ideas and decide to glue a bunch of clips from their past episodes together with a paper-thin plot. This gives them an excuse to half-ass everything and not even bother with coming up with a new story at all. It happened with Friends, it happened with Seinfeld, it happened to That 2000s Nerd Show. It even happened with SpongeBob with one of their special episodes, Truth or Square, and that's not even a sitcom. And you know what? I'm glad this episode exists. I mean, sure, I hate these kinds of episodes with a passion, but they do put a nice spin on things by making the characters do what they do best. And that's David Gilmour's favorite activity in the whole wide world.
We bitch and we fight.
Also, any clip show that ends up splicing in moments that weren't in any of the previous episodes as a joke will always be a plus in my books. Also, halfway through they bring in Carl the Grim Reaper and Tara Patrick for even more surreal stuff, making me wonder why they even started out with the clip show format in the first place.
I said no!
Okay.
It's not a great episode per se, but I can't say that I wasn't interested to see where it would go. I liked the Andrew WK montage. That was pretty cool, I suppose. Grim Reaper Gutters is going above global grilling, though that isn't really the highest bar to jump over considering that was, well, the global warming episode. Who cares?
Where'd you find that?
What does that matter? None of that matters now.
Wait, no!
Oh. Okay then.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
The Mooninites are back. Hey, where were you guys? I haven't seen you since season 3, man. This time they want to get the gang high on some of that good stuff. And Carl rambles on about sticks for some odd reason. I've not listened to a lot of sticks, so I don't really have anything to add with that. By the way, this gives me a chance to recommend you all a movie from 2008 called Pontypool. It's about a duo of radio hosts getting stranded in the middle of nowhere by a snowstorm and having to fend off a bunch of infected folk. I recommend this not just because it's one of the most unique zombie movies out there, in part due to them not technically being zombies, but it's one of the few favorites of mine that I haven't mentioned here yet, so might as well take the opportunity while I still can. Please go watch it, it's great. As for this episode, you can watch it if you want. Personally, it was just not for me. Alright, 2 things I like about this episode: that it's a Carl episode, and this random as hell transition.
Alright, drama queen. Let's get out of here before Linda wakes up.
Whoa! What the hell is that?
Yep, that's all I could say at the end. Okay, I don't know who Matt and Dave's cocaine dealer is, but they are supplying him well to come up with episodes like this. To this day, a year after I first watched this, I don't know why they decided to write an episode like this, but let's just say that if you're a freak that wanted your Aqua Teen episode to be paced something along the lines like a Racerhead, then I guess this episode's for you. And you know what? I'm proud to say that I'm a freak because this episode is phenomenal. George Lowe is in it. He doesn't really do anything here, but he's hilarious, and that's all that matters. Also, I gotta ask, once I'm done with Aqua Teen, would you be interested in seeing an entire video on Space Ghost Coast to Coast in the near future? Just wondering. That's it. This is only going at the top of the list mainly because I'm a freak. I am.
So what do you... God bless you and all you do for television, Frylock. You know, our children are learning from you.
Shake's son shows up to the Aqua Teen's door and he now has to learn some responsibility as a parent. This episode's great. It's a de facto example on how terrible of a person Shake really is, and it does it in such a mean-spirited way that it circles itself around to being funny instead of overbearing and annoying, which is pretty surprising for an adult animated series. Usually they would just go all the way with how much torture it does to some of its younger characters, but here, outside of a single moment with a cement block, it's a lot more toned down than I was expecting, and it ends on a surprisingly lighthearted note with Ezekial finding his calling as a chess player. And then it's revealed that he's a lot older than Shake and he flies away. Cool. What else can I really say about it? He is Ezekial, that is him, Ezekial, he is, and he is going above party all the time. There is only one thing left to discuss here. Why doesn't Frylock ever use his electric piano?
Look, I'm sorry. I should not have unloaded on you like that. Here's a steak knife. Go kill yourself on your lawn.
And here we have the final episode of Season 4. And it is by far the weakest of the bunch. It's not bad, it's just... What did you expect to have the idea Meatwad works at a car wash? Carl's Jr.? Actually, that would work a little too well. Though I do like these 2 brain guys who run the car washing business. Even though they are pretty much recycled from a Coast to Coast episode. That's cool, I give that a 10 out of 10. Yeah, it was a pretty underwhelming way to end the season. Actually, not quite, because on the 10th of April 2007, something interesting popped up. In limited theaters. Oh yeah, you sure as hell bet that I am counting this as an episode.
Will you guys get out of here? I can't hold him for much.
Because that's pretty much what this is. Colon movie film for theaters is simply just a 90-minute episode of the show, and a pretty damn funny one at that. The gang end up ordering a weightlifting machine called Insanoflex, and it ends up going haywire. Meanwhile, Frylock starts to put 2 and 2 together on where they truly came from, with all traces leading all the way back to Dr. Weird. It must have been really surreal to see this in cinemas when it first came out. Hell, I wish I had that experience as a diehard Adult Swim fan, because this has to be one of the most faithful cartoon-to-film adaptations I have ever seen, giving us something that's equally as surreal as the series itself, as well as acting as a real treat for the fans, with cameos all over the damn place, and its lack of logic working at its fullest capacity. In fact, I don't really have much to say about it outside of listing countless scenes that made me laugh. The Space Ghost callback was funny, as is Chicken Brittle's brief appearance, voiced unexpectedly by the groovy as hell Bruce Campbell. I have no idea how they got the rights to use the instrumental to Phil Collins in the Air Tonight for the Aqua Teen's origin, but it fits way too well. Oglethorpe calling Carl a sweaty man made me laugh harder than I would like to honestly admit. Meatwad's parachute being a Powerpuff Girls reference, that opening sequence is cheap in a charming Klasky Shupo type of way. Speaking of, it was also really cool to finally get a full version of the show's main theme, even managing to fully revamp it too, with a guitar solo and everything. And the ending, oh god, the ending. Knowing that every single character here was created by a goddamn watermelon of all things, ironically explains so much.
Hey, we have a mother?
Yes, Frylock, I am your mother.
On its own, it doesn't really work as a movie because of how disjointed everything is, but that kind of adds to its charm. As an episode of the show itself, though, it works wonders, and it's easily the biggest bright spot of Aqua Teen's history. It is a lot of fun. But unfortunately, this movie also has one of the worst Purple Hearts that any movie can bestow of. Since 18 years ago, on the 31st of January 2007, bright lights of the Mooninites were placed all over Boston as some kind of marketing stunt for the movie, but were confused for bombs, leading to the whole city being shut down by Boston officials and Jim Samples resigning as vice president of Cartoon Network. It was not just a day that changed everything in the realm of animation, but was also known as the day where Adult Swim made the government of Boston look like a bunch of idiots. However, I also believe that as revenge for making the entire city look like a bunch of idiots, several government officials from all over the world come together in an underground bunker in Boston filled with margaritas, video games, and overall good times to put together a nuclear bomb the size of a new house and plant it in an unknown location, sending the offended country into an age so dark even Chernobyl is getting coronary heart disease just looking at it. Unfortunately, we have no idea where this bomb's gonna strike, but as long as it's nowhere near the Arctic equinox, we should be safe. I just had to say it, didn't I?